Hello, party people! How's it going? Great to see everyone again. So today we tackle the big question. Does any of this matter? Does sound design matter? The thing that usually pretty quickly happens is people are like, hey, this is cool, but like, what do we actually like do with, okay, yeah, that's a fun sound, but what do I actually do with it? So to help answer this question, we are going to dive into an actual project file. This is a track I produced for Carlos Antonio, who is an amazing artist. This song just came out. The video is amazing. You should go check it out. So I'm not just going to play the whole song. So I'll drop the link in the description or up here or wherever. You should go listen to the song. And I'm just going to dive into some of my favorite parts of it. Okay, so first things first, I do want to start with some sound design. At the very end of the track here, there are two really cool moments. So let me just play this part for you. Okay, so there's two sounds I want to focus on. This first is this distorted end effects, right? And I'll actually go through and take off some of the effects that I have on it here, so you can really just hear what this was initially. Turn up the volume a little. Right, so I think this is something that on its own might be like cool, but not necessarily sound usable. So let's talk about how I made this. It actually starts from an 808. So I took the main kind of heavy 808 from the track. So that's up here in the pink. And we'll talk about that in a sec. Down here, I have this. And if I turn off all the effects, you will see, right? You might not even be able to hear it that well because I guess it's pitched like super low. Okay, so the bulk of what is going on here is going on in Ableton Roar. And most importantly, I've got it on this feedback mode. So normally I bump up the drive here a bunch and then maybe pull back the level on the shaper. But here, I guess because the input signal is not that loud, we're bumping both of them up. And then, what we can do here is actually open this up. So you can see there's two different tabs. There's the direct tab and the feedback tab, right? So in the direct, there's not too much going on. I just have it on soft shaper mode. Then really the bulk of things is happening in this feedback tab. So I have it on the full wave rectifier shaper mode. Level is really bumped up. We are using a comb filter, which is pulled back a little, some bias as well, and really bumping up the resonance on that. But the magic here is what is happening in the modulation matrix. So over here, I have a lot of stuff happening in the noise section, which you can kind of think of a little bit as like a random LFO. And so you can see I have that mapped to the shaper bias, the shaper amount, the filter frequency, and then of course the feedback time and feedback width and all that feedback stuff. The real magic is happening down here in this feedback mode. So let's listen. So we really can't hear much. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, so I think these are some really cool sounds. So I have this shifter over here, and I think what I was doing is using the delay in the shifter, so also bumping up the feedback there and messing with the window. And then in the saturator, just have this sinode fold, bring down the output a little bit. So what I was doing is resampling some of the output from that and then just doing a little bit of shaping to make it a little bit more usable. So I took out some of the low end down here, and then I have this tremolo that is on a rate of 2 bars and in this kind of like sawtooth mode. And what that means is that even though we have this really constant drone, it's kind of just coming in like every 2 bars. I also have a little bit of delay though, so it does feel a bit more continuous. And then the other thing we've got going on here, which I think is super fun, is these vocal swells. So I'll play these as well. And this is something I love doing in the outro of these songs, especially some of the stuff I've been doing with Carlos, where I will take his vocal performance, and put it into a granulator. So what I've done down here is taken one of his vocal elements. I may have actually even really stretched it out or something, and then I've reversed it. Right? There's nothing really too crazy going on here, but I have the scan up, which means that we're kind of advancing through the sample. I've got the grain size here, variation up a little bit, nothing too crazy. Right? And then again, I'm shaping that by having some, taking out a little bit of the low end, boosting the highs, getting a little chorus ensemble, which is going to mellow it out. And then again, I'm having a tremolo here, and this time the tremolo is kind of swelling it in over the course of 2 bars. And then I have a delay, and then I have another tremolo, and that is at a very fast rate, right? At 1/16th, that's creating that kind of like choppy sound. But with all this stuff, right, it becomes something that we can kind of like harness, right? So yeah, let me just play that without the distortion. And then with those effects as well. And again, in one of them, we had a tremolo with the volume starting high, going low over 2 bars. With the other, volume started low, going high. So they sort of begin to like weave around each other and not get in each other's way. So for me, this is a section that I think is like a really positive use of sound design. Like things are a bit busy, but like I don't feel that it sounds gratuitous. I think it's like a nice kind of like outro bridge sort of thing to the song. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about here is the drums, because other than the kick and like maybe the snare, all of the drums here are like samples from freesounds.com. Yeah, let me just play the drums. Most of this kind of like rhythm hinges around this track Metal Perks, where you can see it's a drum rack, and I have all these little Crishy perk metallic perks here. Have a little bit of auto pan and reverb, but like nothing crazy. So what exactly was this? I just went and grabbed a bunch of metal samples, right? And I made myself a little sample pack. So I took all of these, and I'll just put them down here for a second. And I took all of them and I put them on, warp them and put them on beats mode, and I changed to this cycle forward and just pulled it back a little. So that is just going to kind of like make all of the hits a bit more distinct. And then what I did was just select all of them and hit Command J, right? And now you can see like we have kind of a little bit more of a clear sense of our transients in areas like here or here, right? So if you have a big long thing of someone hitting a bunch of stuff, this kind of really divides it up nicely. I think I just added probably like a drum bus or something like that. And what you can do is like go through and find the pieces you like and then like rename them and call this like KP1 or whatever. And then if you hit Command J again, it will save it. And then you can right click Show in Finder and like find your samples. Now this means that when I search for Crishy Perk, I have this little pack of all these different metal sounds, right? So if we loop this part, I'll just slowly like bring in everything. So here's the kick. Then we have kind of like the snare transient. Then sort of a reverbed out layer and some little extra bits. Yeah, and I don't really have any other fun secrets from that. That was really just me going in there and like figuring it out. I'll quickly talk about the 808s because I'm sure people want to know about them. There's honestly not a lot going on. So I'm just using an 808 sample that's pretty clean. So I'll play it without any of this. And then I'm just boosting a little bit of like low mid-range just so we get a little bit more of that kind of like to cut through, since the sub is quite loud relative to everything else that's going on there. And then I just have an instance of Roar, just the single mode, digital, bumping up the drive a bit here, bumping up the level a bit here, and the amount. And that is pretty much it. And you can see I don't even have the dry wet all the way up here, right? You can't really hear it super well. It's just a little bit more prominent. And then I know this is going to seem so not legit, but the harder 808 for the outro part of the song is literally, I realized it's the same thing. And then I just put an amp on blues mode at the end, and that just beefed it up a bit more. In the context of the whole song, there's like not, it doesn't really feel like that aggressive. Okay, cool. That's most of what's going on here. Now, you might be sort of wondering, like, what is kind of the main melodic, harmonic thing that's going on here? That's just this main instrument. And this is just something that Carlos sent me in the original demo. So if you're still here, we can dig a little bit more into like less sound design stuff and more just the evolution of this track. We'll start by showing you the demo. So this is just what Carlos sent me. He sent me like a whole demo track, and I was a little bit too impatient to like wait for him to send stems. So I actually just used UVR Ultimate Vocal Remover to like as a stem splitter. And what I kind of liked about that actually is it just made my life easier, because rather than having like a ton of stems, like I just had these 4 parts. But it also, I do think like there is a sonic quality that it imparted to, you know, this main part here. Right? Where it sounds probably a lot worse than it did if I had like the original session up. But that kind of worked for me, because then I was adding a bunch of other stuff, right? And so it sort of just made it like a little bit easier for me to work with, and it made it easier to like fit in with other parts of the track, because this was all kind of like condensed into one thing. Okay, so I'll just play the chorus here so you can hear kind of the original idea.
Loving you feels like walking through fire, untouched, untouched, untouched. Loving you feels like walking through fire.
Okay, now I'm going to show you a really, really early version that I did, which I don't think is very good, but it's kind of funny because it's like so dramatically different. So here, I'll just play it. Yeah, so super interesting, crazy cowbell noises, 4 to the floor pattern, which I tried and does not come back, and kind of some fun sounds, but I just don't think really fits with the vibe. Here's like version 3.
Loving you feels like walking through fire, untouched, untouched, untouched. Loving you feels like walking through fire.
But you can sort of see like, okay, we're kind of figuring it out. Number 4, we sort of get to a really solid like initial draft.
Loving you feels like walking through fire, untouched, untouched, untouched. Loving you feels like walking through fire.
So I would say the one thing that was definitely like a learning experience was like, I was really trying to fill in a lot of the negative space around those demo vocals. But then, of course, when Carlos redid his vocals, like he added a ton of vocal stuff kind of going on, right? So then I had to maybe like pare back actually what was going on there. I'm pretty sure this is the final version, not mixed or mastered. Here we go.
Loving you feels like walking through fire,
Okay, so that's pretty much it. If there's anything else you like saw in any of these project files that you want me to explain, I will tell you everything. So drop a question in the comments. And again, this is also not the final like mixed and mastered version. So if you want to hear kind of like, okay, here's our final draft, and then where did that go go check out the video. The video is really cool. And you'll kind of hear the final version of all of this, which might be interesting after seeing the whole evolution. So thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it.